just to kick off the program on this Tuesday, this election day in New York State, Shyla Nelson's on the line with us. She's the spokesperson for Election Justice USA, the website electionjusticeusa.org. Shyla, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Tom. Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us. I'm reading this article over at US Uncut. It's apparently a reprint from WNYC that says a new investigation by WNYC has revealed that the New York City Board of Elections purged 126,000 voters, 14% drop in 5 months during the period between November of last year and April and right now, and that the mayor wants to know what the hell is going on. What is going on?
We'd like to know as well, and our effort thus has been to gather as much information as we can, many states as we can. The stories are truly heartbreaking, Tom. These are folks, in most cases, who voting in Democratic primaries, have been voting in elections for years in New York, and suddenly find themselves in a situation where they're listed either not affiliated with a party, which prevents them from voting in the Democratic primary, not even registered at all. The scale of the issue is bigger than any of us could have anticipated, and we're determined to connect as many dots as we can to get to the bottom of what actually happened.
Right. Shyla, I'm losing about every third word on your end. If you're on a cell phone and can stand near a window or something, I don't know what'll fix it.
You bet.
Or is it a VoIP phone? I don't know, but I could understand what you were saying. I understand that there are 63 counties in New York, and that 7 of those counties have seen registered Democrats fall. 56 counties have seen registration of Democrats expand quite consequentially. One of those 7 counties, of course, is Brooklyn, or the area that includes Brooklyn and Kings County, and that's the home of Bernie Sanders. I mean, this is probably the most politically active county in the entire state, and that seems to be where 126,000 people got knocked off the voting rolls. Do we have any information? I mean, was there was caging done? Did they mail things out to people saying, if we don't hear back from you, we're going to delete you? I mean, I'm assuming this was done by the Board of Elections and not by the Democratic National Committee, first of all. Is that the case?
My understanding is that any updates, or what the Board of Elections are calling maintenance updates, were done to the voting rolls, were done specifically by the Board of Elections. My understanding is that in Brooklyn, which, as you know, is Bernie's birthplace, it was, I think, 63,500 Brooklyn registered voters were purged from the rolls between November and April, and well over 100,000 throughout New York. So this is a staggering number. You know, the explanations that we're hearing aren't satisfactory yet as to why such a dramatic purging of these records. Many of those purges having been erroneous. Why that would have happened? Right. Is still a mystery to all of us.
If a person shows up at the polls in Brooklyn or in one of these other 6 counties where there's been a net loss of Democrats rather than an increase in Democrats over the last 6 months as a result of this purge, what do they do?
If voters arrive at the polls today, we of Election Justice USA are instructing voters to do the following: to let polling workers know that there is a pending motion in federal district court. The docket number is CV-16-1892. It's being heard at 2 p.m. today at Federal District Court in Central Islip. The decisions that are pending in this case could, and the emphasis here is the word could, we don't know what's going to happen. They could open the primary to all voters, because a substantial part of the problem has also been the dropping of registered Democrats from the Democratic roll. We're also asking for a declaratory judgment that would render all legitimately eligible voters the ability for their votes to be validated after having been erroneously purged from the voting records. So we're asking voters to go in good faith to vote in the expectation of a favorable ruling today. We know that there are a lot of factors that go into this kind of decision, and we know that the scope of what we're asking for is significant, but we believe this is indeed a crisis situation of major proportion and requires an emergency action such as the one we have initiated. So we're asking voters to go in good faith and to cite that docket number as verification that there is a pending motion in federal district court that will, we hope, enable them to be counted.
Because typically a provisional ballot is a placebo ballot. It's like in 2004, John Kerry lost Ohio by fewer than 186,000 votes, but that's the number of provisional ballots that Ken Blackwell, the Secretary of State, chose never to even bother opening or reading.
That's right.
And
that's right.
You know, typically that's the case. If you ask for a provisional ballot, you're basically, you know, filling something out that's nobody's ever going to see. It's never going to get counted, never going to get read. But your hope is that people show up. If they're turned away, they should say instead, wait a minute, there's this federal lawsuit. It's going to be heard at 2 o'clock today. I would like a provisional ballot on the assumption that the court is going to require you to count these ballots.
Exactly. We are asking for provisional ballots to be counted.
Right. Given
the rather extreme circumstances here, that is our intention.
Right. And this is regardless of who you're voting for. Is there anything analogous? I know we've talked about Democrats being knocked off the rolls. Any idea how many Republicans got knocked off the rolls in these same counties? I mean, typically voter purges are not partisan. They are, you know, simply people who haven't voted in the last 4 elections, or who have, you know, where there's some evidence that they've moved out of state, like, you know, their driver's license is now a Colorado driver's license, and they're no longer listed on the rolls for jury duty and things like that. Well, that's a pretty good indication that they're not an eligible voter anymore.
Exactly. We don't know, actually, how many Republican voters have been impacted by this. We have received reports of some, and the stories are coming in even as we speak. We're getting reports by the minute on our Election Justice USA website, where people can fill out a form and report what has happened to their voter registration. Right. So I imagine there'll be a lot more information in the days ahead. I do think that you're correct in that this isn't necessarily a partisan-focused effort. I do think that there are nuances to what has unfolded in New York that we're very eager to understand as fully as we can, as to particularly why we're seeing the brunt of the impact in the Democratic rolls. Right. But I have reason to believe that the Republicans have been impacted as well.
So perhaps the Trump campaign will be going off on this, or others, who knows. The 7 counties where this purge has actually reduced the number of Democrats, we know that one of them, King County, Brooklyn, is a hotbed of Bernie activity. What about the others?
The others are, it's been interesting. We're getting reports from all over the state of New York, and I think that it's fair to say that there's a very strong base of Bernie support throughout the state of New York. Bernie is very well liked, of course, in Vermont, and while it isn't necessarily a neighborly phenomenon, I think that Bernie's message has resonated with a lot of New York voters. So even outside of what would be considered to be Bernie's home turf, Vermont second only to Brooklyn in that, I think that it's fair to say that there has been a rather significant upswelling of support for him throughout the state. And whether there are any causal links to that and what's happening here, I think it remains to be seen. It's definitely
Shyla, hang on
too early to
Thom
say.
Hartmann Program.
I'm sorry, we just got stepped on. We've hit the break. Shyla Nelson, the website is electionjusticeusa.org. Thank you, Shyla.
Thank you, Tom.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.